I'm Greg Wheatley, and my guests today on Inside Wheaton, two of them are two people who are very important these days. They've just finished some duties of serving on a committee that's been very important to the life of Wheaton College, and we asked them here to talk about that. I want to introduce you, first of all, to those two guests. Dr. Christine Colón is Associate Professor of English here at Wheaton College, and Dr. Brian Howell serves as Professor of Anthropology. So welcome to both of you, and thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
I guess the first thing to say is your disciplines don't seem to be very similar, so something else must have brought you here. It's not a joint book project, right?
No, it's, well, for me, I also serve as the General Education Coordinator. I've been in that role for almost 6 years now, so that definitely brought me through kind of each incarnation of the process.
And that's exactly what we're talking about. General education, which we'll want to flesh out and define a little bit as we go along here. But both of you have been serving on the General Education Revision Summit Committee. Now that sounds pretty heady.
Oh, it's important. Yeah, we're important people. No, it's the third major committee in a process that started 4 years ago, 6 years ago.
5 years ago.
5 years ago. Okay, somewhere in there.
You lost track of time.
Yeah, that's it. We did. That started with one of our standing committees, the Educational Policies and Curriculum Committee, and they were looking at a variety of aspects of the curriculum that students go through. And in addition to their major, every student, of course, has some required courses and some requirements, some distribution requirements that they have to get through. And as this committee was looking at those requirements and seeing that they hadn't been changed in something like 20 years, and by some measures you could say it hasn't even changed since the turn of the century, as in from 1800, there was a good reason to revisit that. So they started a committee called the General Education Exploratory Committee, or GEEK, and Christine and I both were on that. And then it moved to the General Education Revision Committee, which Christine was on, and I was not, and I had a reprieve. And that committee came up with a proposal that was very promising and had a lot of good things in it, but for a variety of reasons, the faculty thought this isn't the proposal that we want. And so then we formed the school formed the General Education Summit Committee, which brought together a number of people from the revision committee, plus some new members that were elected by the faculty, plus some of the administrators who hadn't been involved in the process too much at that point. And then we've been working since the beginning of the summer.
Let me go back, and Christine, I'll throw this one to you. Let's lay some groundwork and talk about why we talk about general education. Has to do largely with being a liberal arts institution, right? Just talk to somebody who's not familiar with that concept.
Sure. It's important not to reduce a liberal arts education to general education. It definitely permeates everything that we want to do here at the college. But general education plays an important part in a liberal arts education because we really are committed to educating the whole person. And with that, focusing not simply on the major and then trying to just check off a few other courses, but the sense that those other courses, the courses that we call general education, are the courses that really give students the chance to experience other areas, other disciplines, things that they may have never experienced before, but also disciplines that will prepare them later on in life to really engage as Christians, as citizens, and to become really well-rounded people.
In fact, let me read. I pulled this directly off our website, and it seems to me, if I'm reading this right, there are three big components here. I'm reading these words: to be creative, to think critically, and to reason analytically and quantitatively. Those are sort of three big categories that we want to train students to be adept at, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people will often talk about the difference between a liberal arts education and maybe a vocational or a quote unquote practical education. But we're convinced that our education is eminently practical because it is training students how to read, how to think, how to write, how to communicate effectively. And the major is an important part of that, but if a student only has a major, they're going to miss out on some critical skills that are going to come from other areas of the curriculum. So we want to make sure that our students do have, if they are primarily gifted and drawn to the humanities, that they are taking courses in sciences and mathematics as well. If they're primarily in the natural sciences, that they're taking social sciences as well. Because we're pretty convinced that if they don't get that breadth, they're going to miss out on some of these key skills that they need for the rest of their lives.
And there are two ways to look at this. I mean, we're a Christian college, and we believe, I would think you would agree, that God works with the whole person. I mean, so this is glorifying to God.
Absolutely.
And practically, I mean, it is pragmatic because we hear about employers employers saying, I want somebody who can reason, who isn't just able to tick off the boxes of my job, but is a well-rounded person, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and also the reality of the job market is that our students will probably graduate and go through many different jobs, and even switching careers.
Right.
And that is just the reality of the world today. And so helping someone to be well-rounded also has that practical element that they don't necessarily know where they'll end up.
So let's go back, and you guys can field this however you like. You can throw it back and forth. Just walk through the process, why there was a felt need to revisit this, what was deficient, if you will, in the first version, and how that process has worked out.
Mm-hmm. Well, as Brian said, we hadn't actually looked at it for a while. And so it really started with the sense that with anything, it's good to go back and say, are we still on track here? Is our general education doing what we would like it to do? And as we started to look back and see what we're doing, we realized that with any program, there is that need to make sure everyone has the vision. And, the sense that you can start off with a really great vision, but 20 years, 30 years down the road, you have a lot of people who weren't there when that was created. And so we started to realize that our general education, not for everybody, but for some, it was being seen as just kind of checking off the boxes and kind of going through. And I think, being in the English department, many of my advisees, are scared of science requirements or math requirements and, not wanting to engage in the conversation of why that's important. And so the need to really go back, look at that and see, do we need to change it so that there's a sense of that, we're all in this for the same reason, that there's value here and we're all committed to that.
And another aspect that emerged as we were looking at this was there's a strong push and a good push in higher education these days to assess and demonstrate, what our students are really learning from their education. And we're pretty convinced that the students at Wheaton College come out stronger in their abilities, and that we can say our students really have benefited from their 4 years here. But we wanted to be able to demonstrate that, and we realized that the best thinking about assessment wasn't available to people when this curriculum was first put together. So there were ways in which our curriculum did not make it easy for us to demonstrate our students really have learned this stuff and they really are better at these things. So we thought if we can revise our curriculum with assessment in mind, we're going to be able to better demonstrate to people out there, to parents, to prospective students, to employers, our students have really grown and they're really good at this stuff.
So you kind of went through round one. I think it was about a year ago, give or take a little bit, that the first vote was taken, and it did not pass. That's a vote among faculty. Is that correct? Can you talk a little bit about what the faculty didn't like about that particular version, or what sent you back to the drawing boards?
Well, it's interesting. In the vote, I think the challenge with faculty is we're all really busy. And so getting everybody to engage in the process. And it was an interesting kind of process of making sure everybody was reading the materials and engaging. And I think for some, particularly for some who were engaging later in the process, there was just that fear of, its change. And I think there was also some hesitancy as far as, we want more continuity, but we also want faculty to be able to do what they love to do. And I know that for some faculty members, they were worried about that. With the first curriculum that was proposed. And so I think there was some hesitation there. And so I think it gave us a really good place to start as far as what kinds of changes we needed to make, because we had a sense of, what was worrying faculty. And because, everyone is committed to doing the best for our students. That was never a question. But a lot of debate as to what does that look like?
What does that mean? Yeah.
And it was interesting that it was a very narrow vote, and we had set a very high bar for ourselves that we needed 2/3 of the faculty to vote for it, and we've got just barely under that, something like 63% or something, or 58%. But one of the things that faculty said is we don't think the plan is ambitious enough. We think we would like to see something that's actually more innovative. And so it gave us a mandate to say, okay, well, you asked for it. Let's do. And so we came up with something that we're very excited about now, because we think it really does push Wheaton into a new way of really philosophically conceiving of general education differently than we have in the past.
And there were students on this committee, right? How do they fit in this? How do they feel about all this?
Well, they voted for the first one overwhelmingly. They decided to vote as a block, and so there were 12 student government students who voted for it. And then they've been involved in the process since.
Yeah, and they've really been involved from the beginning. And I will say, all of the students that we have had on the various committees, they have been really committed to representing the student body well. They haven't been students who have just been passive in the process. And their input has been invaluable because, we certainly see things as faculty members and faculty members, who know the big picture. And they have the experience of being the students and taking the classes and going through it. And so I think it's been really helpful to have their perspective.
Let's talk a little bit about practically what this looks like. If I'm a student enrolling here next fall as a freshman, what will I expect out of this? I mean, what things will be expected of me? What will I gain by this kind of general education curriculum?
Yeah, well, for the record, it's going to be 2 falls from now.
Okay, we got a little gap in there. Okay. I'll wait to enroll then.
Yes, right, that's right. Yeah, take a gap year up at Honey Rock. They've got a new gap program.
Is that a commercial?
Yeah, did it have? I don't know. Well, you're going to be seeing actually a lot more flexibility. The philosophy of the new Gen Ed program is that we're thinking about student outcomes. So instead of saying, okay, we want students to have a course out of this list of courses and a course out of this list of courses, we're saying we want students to be able to do the following things. And we have 11 areas that we've identified that we want students to be able to display practical skills or display particular knowledge. And then all different departments can look at these various themes and say, okay, well, our department can definitely put courses in this theme and this theme and this theme. So students will actually be able to have more choice in terms of what departments they look to, in terms of what order they do their courses in terms of choosing the professors that they are drawn to. But they're still going to come out. In fact, they're going to come out with I think, even more coherent sense of what they've really learned.
And I think that coherence is really key as well, because one of the other changes that we've made is we have what we call the shared core. And so as a freshman, a student will come in and take the first core class, which is designed as a seminar. So it's designed to be a small class. It's designed to get them engaged in doing the liberal arts right away so that they know when they step in, oh, okay, I'm at a liberal arts college. This is what it looks like. And so the hope that starting that way, then as they approach their other courses, as they make their decisions about what themes they're going to take in which departments, they can really strategize, and think, oh, okay, I know why it's being set up this way. Now I can make my choice as well.
And then there's a capstone course, isn't there, on the other end of the process, right?
Yeah, the capstone is actually a piece we've kept from the previous curriculum that we really liked. And the only difference is we're giving it a little more structure, a little more explicit sort of outcomes that we expect those to meet. But I do want to emphasize that, this incoming course is going to be really exciting because so often students encounter their university education as, first I have to take these big lecture courses, and then I get into the small courses.
Get those out of the way.
And we're going to bring in first-year students, right out of high school. We're going to put them in classes of 18 to 20 students with a prof, reading hard texts, talking about deep stuff, really grappling with these issues, writing papers, working at a college level right away. And I think it's going to make a big difference in how they, exactly what Christine said, how they think about the rest of their college career.
And then as this goes on, I'm assuming that professors have, classes could be added, right? I mean, that might fit in this curriculum as they conceive of new courses and outlines. Is that right?
Definitely. And that's actually what I think is really exciting. For students, they have the excitement of more choice. For faculty, we have the excitement of, taking things that we're really interested in and thinking about a general education class that would work with that. Right. And so it allows us much more creativity and flexibility. And I think particularly one of the exciting things is we are allowing courses to count for 2 different themes. And so it's a way of either connecting with another faculty member from another discipline to try and pull together themes, or cultivating interest that you might already have and just being able to bring that more into your course.
Can you give a couple of examples of courses maybe out of your own disciplines that would fit under this rubric and how they work in this curriculum?
Yeah, I was just thinking as you were talking that one of the themes that I think is going to stimulate this kind of creativity is our global theme, so global diversities. And this is a chance for faculty who have thought, well, I can teach this course on, say, literature, and I can use some of the books that, that students are familiar with, and I know that students will be drawn to that because they'll recognize things. Or I can now create a course that's going to draw in writers from Latin America and writers from Africa and writers from Asia, and now I can link that to this theme in a way that before I didn't really have a good place in the curriculum to put it. And so students might say, I don't know these writers. This looks weird to me or something. So now it creates this incentive for both students to take the course and for faculty to develop these new courses. And I think it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, I think that's definitely exciting. And your example is exactly what I'm excited about. So I teach a course in Latin American literature and, draw in from a good number of students. But thinking about that, meaning the great text, which is one of the themes, but also global diversity, really allowing me as a professor to really focus on issues that oftentimes when it's just a lit course, you don't spend as much time on. You spend time on, okay, let's analyze this as a poem, but really saying, okay, now let's look at these issues. Let's look at how these writers are expressing them, and let's look at the interesting complexities as we compare them.
Talk a little bit in these closing minutes, each of you, about why this is exciting for you, and not just this new curriculum, but being in a community like Wheaton that allows for this. I mean, not every school can do this. If you go to a research school, you're not going to get this. Talk about why you're here and why you enjoy doing that.
The easy answer is I'm here because of the students. I'm here because of the excitement you can get in a classroom when your students are really engaging. And I think for me, what makes the new general education curriculum so exciting is I think it will help students engage even more, to find it an exciting course, to really enter in and say, yeah, I'm willing to do this. Literature may not be my thing, but I'm going to dive in. And for me, that's what I find exciting, when you have that engagement, and the idea of kind of bringing that back to our general education is something I'm really looking forward to.
I think what I love about Wheaton in particular is that it is a school that has a mission and has a grounding in the gospel, and that allows us to bring the liberal arts around something really concrete. And, the liberal arts can be a kind of diffuse curriculum, and I think a lot of liberal arts colleges have found themselves struggling to find any sort of cohesion in their curriculum. But we have some Bible theology courses that are very central to what we do. And all these courses are coming around this sense of how are we creating Christian citizens? How are we creating, people who are going to make a difference for Christ and his kingdom? And to be in a community where we can talk this way, and when we're developing our curriculum, it's not just, well, I want to defend anthropology and I want to make sure students take a lit course. It's no, how do we really create these kinds of people who can go out and make a difference for Christ and his kingdom? And so the collaboration that we've been able to have is really amazing. And it's been an incredible process to work with colleagues from all across the college who are saying, yeah, we want to develop a great curriculum. And I think we have.
I think so too.
Well, it's wonderful. On behalf of everybody, I'll thank you for your tireless years of service. It must seem that way, at least. Is there any way that people, I know this is fairly new, people that are interested in this, is there a document that's online yet, or will there be soon?
Where is that?
I don't know that we've put it.
Maybe coming. Huh?
It may be coming. If people want to search on the Wheaton webpage for the Christ at the Core is the name of our curriculum. Yeah, so they could type in Christ at the Core in the search bar on the Wheaton page. And if it's not up there yet, they could certainly write to the admissions office, or they could write to the provost's office. And I think the documents are out there, and it's just a matter of, I don't know that they've been posted in a most prominent place yet.
Great. Thanks to both of you. Appreciate you being here and helping us understand this a little better. Dr. Christine Colón is Associate Professor of English, and Dr. Brian Howell, Professor of Anthropology. And for Inside Wheaton, I'm Greg Wheatley.